Welcome to episode 19 of Renewing the Conversation, a series of interviews where we talk to leading industry professionals and experts about renewable energy and heating, with a focus on the home and what challenges face the industry and homeowners.
Today we welcome Aimee Clark, Head of Commercial Low Carbon Technology, and Mubeen Hafeji, Head of Supply Chain Low Carbon Technology at Octopus Energy. Aimee and Mubeen talked to us about how Octopus Energy are going to start providing affordable heat pumps to homeowners in the UK and how they're training heat engineers in their new purpose-built £10 million training facility.
We'd like to thank today's sponsor, Octopus Energy, a UK-born energy tech pioneer that uses technology to unlock a customer-focused and affordable green energy revolution in the UK and across the world. To find out more, head over to www.octopus.energy.
Don't forget, hit the subscribe button below and please show us your support by giving us a thumbs up. Enjoy the interview. Good morning, Mubeen and Aimee. Thank you so much for joining us from Octopus Energy today. So Octopus Energy are very interestingly going to start installing heat pumps from April of this year. Can you tell us a little bit about why Octopus has decided to go in that direction and start offering that service?
If you look at what Octopus Energy does as a business, we're all about using technology to help customers live kind of greener lifestyles and help the UK in general transition to a low carbon future. So when we looked at where those carbon emissions come from, a big chunk of those is how people heat their homes and how they cook their food. And when you look at all the solutions across the market, we already have something which is amazingly efficient that's in all of our homes, in fridges at the moment, in heat pumps. And so we really kind of decided that was the best way to help the majority of homes in the UK decarbonise. And the technology is brilliant, but the process to get those at the moment can be quite expensive and quite difficult. And so we set about on a mission really to help make it cheaper and easier for people to do that. We've built our electrification of heat centre in Slough, which is a 24,000 square feet centre devoted to training engineers and how to install low carbon heating. And also to developing new technology, new innovation to help bring heat pumps to more people at a lower cost.
Our role is to, really shape, simplify, and market this heat pumps, this awesome piece of technology that we have today, into something that customers really fall in love with, because it's an absolute box of magic, right? Compared to what's available in the market today. It's greener, it's a much more comfortable way of heating your home. It's much more safer, and very soon, hopefully it'll be a cheaper and much more, simpler way to sort of install and a lower cost way to install in your home as well. So we want we want customers, our role in this is we want customers to feel the same joy and the same pride of electrifying their heating and having a heat pump in their garden or on the side of the house compared to, perhaps electrifying their vehicles and having a Tesla on the driveway. That's the same joy and pride that we want customers to feel when it comes to heat pumps.
So is this the first introduction that Octopus are having into renewables, or do you guys do anything else in the renewable space at the moment?
That's a really good question. So we're trying to tackle it across the whole energy supply chain. So right from, where we get our energy from to how we help our customers use that energy. So we also recently acquired Octopus Renewables, which is one of the largest solar investors in Europe. And we're also doing a lot of stuff in wind, for example, investing in our own turbines and also supporting other people to do that as well, to try and make sure all the electricity that's supplied to the grid is green, so that when people are taking up these heat pumps and other electric solutions, it's coming from the right sources.
So in terms of the rollout of these actual heat pumps, what are the target areas going to be? Is it going to be nationwide straight off the bat, or are you just going to focus on certain areas to start with?
We plan on rolling out across multiple regions very, very quickly. Chances are it won't be national off the bat to begin with, but we will very quickly have that national capability of engineers so that we are able to reach all the hard to reach areas across the country very, very soon.
In terms of the actual installation costs, I've read that you guys are trying to focus at that £5,000 mark to try and almost get the grants to cover a lot of that. How are you going to achieve that, given that there have been so many installers now that have been doing this for the past decade that are not getting anywhere near that kind of mark? How is Octopus going to get us to that £5,000 mark?
That's $1 million question, isn't it? So it's I love this, right? Because every time Greg and Co sort of tweet that we're going to get installation costs down to a certain level, I generally get a couple of very anxious and very worried phone calls from people in the supply chain who are thinking, what does that mean for them? One of the biggest ways that we are going to lower the cost of installations is by using technology to tackle every single cost lever within the value proposition when it comes to installing a heat pump. And we're really keen and we're really excited as a technology company to unleash the power of tech for our customers and for the benefit of our customers, and to help optimize those sort of big levers. There's a couple of really important costs within those heat pump installation costs, and one of the biggest cost for heat pumps is in the materials area. And part of our role is to make sure that we have the right level of competitive tension within the value chain, within the supply chain, so that we create innovation, we proactively drive that sort of lower costs within those materials, and are able to pass those costs on to the customers.
So what is the response? I'm really intrigued by this. Octopus are saying they're going to strive to get to that kind of £5,000 mark because the grant from the government has been set and it's coming into effect in April. They'll give you an upfront £5,000 to install a heat pump. So that's what Octopus are going to be kind of trying to aim for. How does that then affect your customers now? So how do you convince customers now to go ahead with an installation not at that rate? And how are you tackling those conversations where a customer says, it's okay, you guys aren't there yet, I'm just going to sit tight and wait, give it another year, another 2 years until you get down to that magic number and then call me?
It's definitely something we've seen a lot, actually, especially since we've started being more vocal about it. Lots of people have said, oh, maybe I'll wait until April then. And when the grant comes in, which is absolutely fine, we want them to have the best outcome for them. The technology and the installation is coming down at a rate, or we're bringing that down in line with the grants. So at the moment, you've got quite a lot of grants available through RHI, and that's being replaced by the boiler upgrade scheme in April, which is lower. But, with the cost reduction we're seeing, we think, the net difference, or most people will actually be better off. So it's all about kind of balancing those two things. And we really hope to get in the not too distant future to the point where we've reduced the cost enough that we don't need any kind of subsidy. That's what we all ideally want. And just to explain a bit more about kind of how we get to that cost reduction, because I had a similar reaction when I first heard our ambition to do that, is how on earth are we going to do it? It's not rocket science. It's really just being ruthlessly focused on efficiency. So looking at every component of the installation itself, right from the surveying process to the final installation. And we saw massive inefficiencies when we first started looking at kind of third parties doing this, where, they might have a highly qualified person on site who's there to do a job, but they don't have the right parts to do it. So they're standing around waiting for the afternoon. So by planning that really well, by making sure you have the right parts at the right time and the right people, you can really kind of shrink down the time an installer is in their home, and therefore the total cost of an install. So the challenge we've got now is how do we take that model we've developed on a very small scale and build that up to the sort of national installer network.
Yeah, I think one of the benefits of being a pioneer, or certainly going into a space that nobody else really in your field is going into and venturing into that, is that you do have really hard learning curves really early on, but then you have the excitement of being kind of the first energy company to be offering heat pumps. There's always pluses and minuses to going into a space for the first time, but credit to Octopus for doing it.
Could you just walk us through the actual process? So how is this all going to take place in April? So you'll obviously have somebody that's going to come out and do a site visit and give people a quotation. Will they look at things like insulation? Will they look at things like pipe work and then try and give them a comprehensive quote for everything?
So that's a really good question, Mars. We will firstly have, I mentioned earlier about the technology that we'll be bringing into the market. And so we will have quite a smart way at the front end around getting as much information as possible for that customer before we step into the customer's home and begin the survey. So there's obviously the full, very detailed and comprehensive pre-checks, the surveys itself. And once the survey is complete, we give the customer, or we'd like to give the customer sort of a couple of options, or at least a option for the air source heat pump installed within their home. We'll have the engineers very, very quickly readily available to undertake their installations, depending on obviously capacity and where they're based geographically. And we're also hoping and looking forward to sort of making sure that we not just fit and forget it, but we have that close relationship with the customer over the course of the warranty and maintenance period. And we're continuously helping our customer to sort of optimize that heat pump and make sure those control logics of the heat pumps are are really well set out?
At the moment, you have normally, you put in a request. We actually do a quick kind of assessment for your home to give you an idea of would it be a good fit, roughly how much it would cost, because we thought that was something that was really kind of missing in the market. And then we send someone around to your home. They do a kind of full heat loss assessment, give you a more accurate quote, and then you can, if you want to, you can go ahead with the install. Where we're really trying to take that in the future is to condense that process as much as possible, so that if people find that their boiler is just broken or about to break, we can turn that around really quickly for them. And really, we want to make that as simple and easy as a gas boiler replacement. I think one of the key benefits we have versus kind of other people in this space is we're doing that entire process ourselves. We're there right throughout that journey, so we can make sure we give them the best designs up front, and then we really follow through on that.
Who have Octopus tied up with now? So this is the question that I've had. Who are you using for the heat pumps? Who are you using for the cylinders, and what are you using for the controllers?
One of the really important pieces for us, and what's the core pieces within our Octopus's DNA, is that we're always championing the side for the customer. And there's especially for large installers, there's always sort of a bit of a tenacity to sort of go down some sort of exclusivity arrangement for the sake of short-term, perhaps commercial benefits for the business. And that's something that we're very, very keen to avoid. So I don't see Octopus having a long-term exclusive relationship with any one manufacturer, any one cylinder manufacturer, any one controls manufacturer in any way, sort of shape or form. What we will see, and what we do like to encourage, is a competitive environment for manufacturers and suppliers that are the suppliers and manufacturers that bring into market more competitive solutions, more innovative solutions, more simpler solutions, and more friendlier solutions for the customer are rewarded with a higher volume of work. And that's the sort of environment that we'll see. So for us, it's more about bringing transparency and fairness, and that will always trump over having a single source of manufacturers and suppliers.
So one of the things that's most spoken about at the moment in the industry, and from a household perspective of heat pumps, is that there's a major concern about the lack of installers that we have in the UK. We just simply don't have the number of installers that we will need in order to meet the targets that the government has put in place. Are you guys going to be using your own installers, or are you going to be subbing out to third-party installers? How's that going to work?
Very much our own installers. I mean, that is going to be that is very much the difficult decision. Well, it's not so difficult, really. It's difficult to do, but the decision is quite easy to make. The reason why we want to have our own installers is to make sure that we're able to provide the right level of training and support for our engineers, and to create more jobs within our local communities, and also be in a position where our installers are really share our passion for bringing customers the right solutions for heating. And there's some very, very good installers out there today, some contractors out there today, but we feel that having an in-house capability is the right way forward for us at this moment in time. So we're on plan, and very quickly we'll end up having a group of 400 engineers and installers nationally to give us that national coverage very, very quickly. We have the capacity to do 1,000 engineers a year through that in-house training program as well. So in-house training is and in-house engineers is the way we're moving forward with.
When you start installing in April, you're going to start with 400 installers.
We are ramping up to have 400 engineers very quickly.
Would that make Octopus Energy the biggest heat pump installer in the UK?
I think it'll make us one of the largest installers for electrification of heat, potentially in Europe, I would say, especially with the companies who are directly employing engineers.
In terms of targets, what's the target for 2022 in terms of physical installations that you guys would be happy with?
As many as possible, as quickly as possible.
There's 1.7 million gas boilers replaced a year, or thereabouts, and which is a huge market to go after, right? And I think in the past, heat pumps have been a very separate thing, a considered purchase for people who are doing a renovation, or they might have had solar before and kind of seen the benefits of that, and a heat pump is the next stage. I think we're moving from that into the mass market. As soon as we can bring these costs down, it suddenly becomes a viable option for anyone who's just replacing their heating. And that will be, really the tipping point. If you can get something that's a similar cost, a similar experience, so we're really focused on the experience in terms of how quickly you can get that, for example, it has to be as good as a gas boiler and is also way, way more environmentally friendly. So it's already about 75% less carbon. As the grid gets greener, that will become completely carbon-free heating. Why wouldn't you make the decision to get a heat pump instead of a gas boiler?
Yeah, you mentioned that it's connected to the grid, and heat pumps are obviously driven by electricity. And one of the things that we're seeing huge amounts of discussions about in the media, the press, and also on our own site
on our platforms.
With the household owners is this massive concern and real challenge for homeowners to meet their energy bills at the moment. Our experience is that our electricity has increased 100% in the last 12 months. Last year, running our heat pump was costing us 100% less than what it's costing us now to run it. And that is a very daunting thought, given that we're going to be going into this, the price cap is going to end, it's going to change, and we're all going to be faced with new tariffs, which are going to be considerably higher, we suspect. So how does that correlate to you convincing your customers to change or go invest in a heat pump and have a heat pump? Because it must be a really difficult conversation for you as an energy company to talk to a homeowner and say, look, I'm going to convince you to get a heat pump, and then these are our tariffs at the moment. How is that conversation happening with customers?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's a really difficult situation across the board. Wholesale prices are about 3 times now what they were this time a year ago. So everyone is feeling the pinch, customers who are paying, all of us who are paying more on their bills, and also a lot of energy companies sadly going out of business as well. I think the key thing to look at for the sort of transition to heat pumps is what that difference is between gas and elec, which is something we haven't really had to think about before. But now, people are sort of faced with that decision. And kind of based on where that is, and we've got quite a lot of data from our customers who've been running their heat pump on Agile, for example, our tariff that kind of follows those prices. So you can run your heat pump in the cheaper, greener times. They tend to pay about the same on their heat pump as they would have with a gas boiler. So it's about kind of neutral at the moment. But what we would really like to see in the future is the environmental levies, which at the moment are only placed on electricity, kind of ideally removed, so that would lower everyone's bills, but it also stopped penalising people who are investing in low carbon heating and doing the right thing, through those higher taxes. So that's something we're really kind of lobbying for, because it would really help bring down bills for everyone, but also really sort of support the heat pump rollout.
I know that in some European countries, there are even specific lower tariffs for heat pump owners and heat pump customers of energy companies. Is that something that you're hoping that you're going to be able to start to offer as a completely different, more attractive tariff to your customers who have bought into heat pumps?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, because of the flexibility of heat pumps, and we can really see it in some of our data, people putting them on a couple of hours before the peak period, for example. It means you can run them at the cheaper times, which means you can get access to lower energy costs. So, we will definitely be looking at kind of specific tariffs, or even just using our current ones, to run their heat pump in a more efficient way.
So you mentioned the tech elements of heat pumps, Mubeen. Obviously, heat pumps do give you that flexibility to be able to work in conjunction with things like the Agile tariff that you guys have. Is that going to be something that you'll just roll out straight out of the box for customers to be able to have that flexibility from a control perspective, that their heat pump will automatically work more when the tariffs are lower?
We're hoping so. We have an exceptionally very talented team in the background doing a lot of hard work to integrate into manufacturers' platforms through APIs and other means to be able to sort of smartly control these heat pumps in a really cool and flexible way to building on Aimee's point, to really help lower the cost of operating these heat pumps.
If I could just go back to training for a second. So obviously you guys are going to be training your engineers and people that are going to be doing this. one of the biggest issues that we found with heat pumps is that when you inquire about a heat pump, you get a sales guy that comes out, and the sales guy obviously wants to sell you stuff, and they're not always fully conversant and knowledgeable of the things that are operating within the house, and they give you a quote. The installation team comes out, they install stuff, it doesn't work properly, and that's purely because, or in a lot of cases, the case that the sales guy has either undersold or omitted certain things from that. Will your sales team be given any training so that they can identify things like poor insulation, radiator sizes, pipe work, to put in a system that's going to work straight out of the box?
It's a really good question. So firstly, not only will we be giving our sales guys sort of practical training within our R&D center as well, but also work the other way around, where our engineers will also have training for surveying. So having that cross mix on visibility of what happens from the end-to-end sort of installation process perspective for our field force and for our engineers really helps make sure that we are able to give our customers the best choice and best recommendations and the best sort of heat pump for their homes.
And then moving on, once the hopefully the installation has happened and it's all gone really seamlessly and efficiently, then what happens after that? What's going to be the after sales care that Octopus offers their customers? Are you going to be looking at offering, annual maintenance packages or anything like that, or emergency call outs or anything, any kind of services that customers will make them feel more secure in venturing into heat pumps?
The short answer is yes. We really want to help with that end-to-end experience, and it's not because we want to land grab and do absolutely everything. It's really because we know that all of that stuff is important to customers, and there's no point in getting a heat pump system installed if you can't maintain that. And to be honest, there's not a very good maintenance plans available for heat pump customers at the moment. They charge an absolute fortune because no one really understands the risk of that. But they should actually be lower cost to maintain. There's less moving parts. It's basically like having a fridge. And if you think about how often that breaks down, probably less than your boiler, I'd say. We're definitely looking at, how can we support customers through that whole process, right from initial inquiry to the kind of aftercare.
So you mentioned that the training facility and R&D was cost £10 million. That must have been quite a facility. Can you tell us a little bit about why you decided to build that and how it's assisting you in going forward into heat pumps?
It's pretty amazing. I think it's probably the first kind of dedicated electrification of heat centre in the UK. And it was really because we knew we needed to do something different and kind of really invest in this to kind of transform the market, really. So, we'd love you guys to visit. It's a huge facility. It's big enough, I think, for 20 homes inside it. And we've actually got 2 full-size homes we've built in there to give engineers live experience on an actual home of doing an installation and fault finding. And so we've got 2 homes. One is kind of a standard spec from the 1970s. One is from the 2000s, and they cover probably between them about 40% of UK homes. So it really is, giving them that hands-on experience and preparing them for what they might see afterwards. And then we've got loads of other cool stuff there, like, we've got a whole R&D section where we've got weather chambers where we can test heat pumps in all different conditions. Sound chambers, so we're trying to sort of really tackle both aspects, the product and how do we get the best products to people, and then the installation, how do we make that experience as great as possible.
What are you expecting to be the most common questions or concerns that heat pump, when you approach a household and a homeowner, what do you think are going to be the most common and frequent questions you're going to be asked?
So there's a lot of myths around heat pumps, which we're really trying to kind of bust. And that's a big part of the centre as well, is you can literally see a heat pump, you can hear it. Most of the time people don't even know it's running. That's how quiet it is. But there's, people still think they're really noisy and obstructive. People just want to understand what the tech is, where it's going in their home, how disruptive it would be, how easy is it to operate. And generally, all of those things are really positive. Lots of people have them say they're more comfortable than their gas boiler because it's just that slow, steady heat. And they don't really have to play around with the controls. It kind of works itself. The only real barrier we've got at the moment is the cost. And that is the thing, obviously, we're working very hard to bring down.
So if somebody's watching this video and they're keen now to think about, well, maybe I can contact Octopus, how do they go about that? Is there some sort of enrollment form? Is there a waiting list?
Yeah.
When can they expect? How do people get in touch with you?
So So we have a blog which I can share with you guys, which just gives a bit more information about what we're doing, answers some of the common questions about heat pumps as well, and they can register their interest. We're doing installs now, but at a very small scale, where we kind of build up our network. So we're expecting that to kind of open that up more broadly from April time this year.
Well, thank you very much, Mubeen. Thank you very much, Aimee. It's been very interesting. I am going to be very intrigued to see how the next few months plays out for Octopus and what the feedback is going to be from customers. You only ever know once you go live, and I'm sure you're going to have some hiccups and you're going to have some fantastic successes on the way too. It would be wonderful if you come back to us in the summer and talk to us about, how that initial phase went, what you've learned, because I'm sure you'll learn some things, and where you feel you're starting to really gain some confidence quite quickly. It'll be really interesting to have you back on in the summer and hear how it's all gone.
Awesome. Thank you ever so much for having us.
Love that.
Thanks so much. Take care.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.